Recording is on.
So thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about AlertBlast notifications. A lot of different buzz out there with notifications and different tools and systems. Some of you might be familiar with 10DLC, the TCR campaign registry, and how much fun that is. So we're going to touch on some of that today. Before I get started, I did want to talk about just a little bit of general housekeeping, just so folks know what might be coming down the pipe. As you know, our engineering team is always working on stuff. And in the near future, keep an eye out for Connect Update 3.5.4, looking for somewhere around the end of March for that to be released. And some of the things that you're going to see in Connect will be some additions of sentiment and transcription built directly into OneCloud Connect. Looking at adding in AI chat, some live call quality metrics. So we're talking about like jitter and latency and things like that. You'll be able to see, and some really cool new sounds and some sounds and ringtones that are exclusive to OneCloud. Currently only supported on the desktop, but it's some neat new stuff that we're throwing in there. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, as you know. Our team's always kind of building that software out a little bit further. Another new exciting update is the AI agent. We're currently operating on AI agent v.1 or version 1. We will have version 2 coming out in the very near future. There's going to be some updated call flows, which are super cool. They're going to be state driven, so the way that they flow through a call structure is going to be a little bit more fluid, a little bit more flexibility. We're also going to have a bring your own MCP server. Look forward to another webinar in the very near future, digging a little bit further into AI, not just our AI agent, but AI in general. Like, what is an MCP server, right? Added a few other things too, such as comfort messages and some added metrics, which are real neat, such as resolution rate, how many transfers, how much time has the AI agent saved you, and basically handling a lot of those general questions that you might be getting. So with that out of the way, jumping into the webinar, today we're going to be talking about AlertBlast. It has been a solution that we've had for a while. Got quite a few customers out there who have already utilized it, but we have made some enhancements, and that's really today's goal and what we're going to focus on. Now, of course, many of you know me. My name is Ben Smagacz. My role is onboarding, product evangelism. I've been known to wear a lot of hats. I've been with, I think, OneCloud going on 16 years at this point. I started out doing structured cabling, worked my way up the ranks into programming phone systems, so Nortel, ComDial, Vertical Wave, a lot of the older antiquated systems, and then I got to ride the wave into the cloud, working with systems like Star to Star, which is now Sangoma, 3CX, and then eventually we built our own cloud. So going from an infrastructure or on-premise based communications organization with a lot of hardware to everything in the cloud has been one heck of a transition, and learning a lot along the way. So it's been an honor to be able to be part of that. It's a really cool organization. And what is OneCloud? OneCloud is a software development company, but we've been in the industry or telecommunications industries since 1984. So we're not a software company that designed a communications platform. We've been in telecom for years, and we made that leap into software. And some of the core things along the way is when there was that move from on-premise to the cloud, there was a lot of gaps. There was a lot of problems. Not everything was compatible, and we tried to bridge those gaps. One of the things that we also try to focus on as well is building trusted relationships with our customers, creating tailored solutions, which means that we want to be able to formulate solutions for our customers using our products, and trying to stay on top of things as technology evolves. We have a lot of different solutions, from UCaaS, which is Unified Communications as a Service, to CCaaS, which is Contact Center as a Service. We have faxing solutions, we have mobile solutions, and we are a Microsoft Operator Connect certified partner, one of 49 in the US. I think at one point we were one of 11, but Microsoft lightened some of their rules a little bit. So What you're going to learn today, we're going to talk about instant communication equals real results. So we'll discover how flexible omni-channel notifications can streamline, how you communicate with people, whether it's an urgent issue, a security breach, simple shift reminder, or even you want to reach out to your customers. We'll talk about a use case in which we deployed AlertBlast, and then we'll have a quick look at the updated platform. So Sumner's going to show us that. There's a lot within the platform, so we're not going to be able to dig into too much. We'll do a quick overview of it. But we'll also talk about smarter, scalable notifications and ways to improve your efficiency. Reduce response times, integrate alerts into everyday systems like, hey, a door open, or hey, my server room is a little too hot. And these changes, a lot of them, they don't require heavy IT involvement. Our agenda for today is we're going to talk about the problems. What are the problems? We'll talk about what's new with V3. We'll touch on what is AlertBlast, what is the core goal of it, what is its vision, the value of what AlertBlast can bring to an organization, and then Sumner will jump in with a demo of the solution. And then if we have time, we'll talk about what a transition looks like. So if we are moving to a new platform or you're going to adopt AlertBlast, what does that look like for your team? With me today is our CTO, Sumner Robinson. He has been able to take a quick, brief break from his always busy schedule to join us. I have worked with Sumner for a long time, and it is, it's got to be a challenge for him. He maintains everything going on from day to day. He stays on top of all the technology that's always evolving. We've got 30 minutes for this webinar, and we know that something probably new and exciting is going to be released in technology, and Sumner's going to have to figure out how to stay on top of it. But with that said, Sumner, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. It is an absolute pleasure to be here and talking about AlertBlast V3. As Ben said, I'm the CTO here at OneCloud. I have been with the company with over 13 years, so Ben's got a little bit of seniority on me. But I do remember, 13 years ago, Ben and I traveling around the country installing those premise-based phone systems that he was talking about. So it's been a great journey. It's been a fun journey. And I'm excited to show you guys kind of a next step, not the next step, but a next step.
Yeah, and those are some kind of, we had some interesting memories. Just I think one time we were driving back from I think it might have been Dothan, Alabama, very active, lively town. But as you said, there's a military base there. But I mean, there was a box truck driving down the road, and the back half was on fire. And we're like trying to get the person to pull over, and they're just like, "No, no, I'm good, I'm good." We're like, "No, seriously, that like your vehicle's on fire. Get off the road." That was
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
fun times.
yes, very much so. Very much so. So, going to jump right into it here because we do have a pretty tight timeline. The problem with notifications. So, what are companies and individuals who use notifications, whether it be email or phone calls or even SMS, which is really where the big pain points are? What are they? So, you're dealing with things like app sprawl. You're dealing with compliance issues. You're dealing with undeliverable or unreliable systems, and then you're dealing with some cost issues. So starting with app sprawls, sometimes you've got several different apps that are required to do things like employee notification, but then you've got something different for emergency alerts. And then maybe you want to communicate with your customers. You're using a separate tool for that. Sumner, I know that some of that was the catalyst as to why we put the effort into AlertBlast to make it. Can you talk a little bit about app sprawl, what it is, and how it impacts companies?
Yeah, so app sprawl really affects both sides of a notification issue. It affects the person managing the notifications and it affects the person receiving the notifications, but in different ways. So a lot of what we've seen is, an IT director will have a way to get notified when the server room gets too hot. They'll also have to support the marketing team in sending out their marketing notifications, and they'll also have to support HR in sending out employee notifications. And they're using different tools for all that. The ultimately it falls on the IT team to support all three applications, and that's difficult. On the flip side, you've got the user who sometimes has to install a special app to get notifications. And then you've got scenarios where they, you know, didn't install the app on their newest phone or didn't log in, forgot about it, or they're just not paying attention to that notification. And so you've got issues on both sides of it, and we really wanted to address that with this release.
Yeah. And with apps raw, right? So there you've got a challenge, and from as you said, the IT perspective, you're dealing with having to not only manage logins, credentials, but who builds it every time? Who builds a user? Is the app installed? That's a hugely challenging. But from there, we're also dealing with things and seeing things when it comes to compliance.
Mhm.
You know, a couple of years ago, they released the Trace Act, where they really wanted to drill down on things like robocalls into carrier networks. But then they recognized quickly that things like, hey, bulk texts into a network can also be a challenge. And there was a lot around that. If anybody's navigated 10 DLC or the campaign registration, they know that it can be fun, right? And it can be a challenge. So, can you talk a little bit about what compliance issues people are running into, and maybe the risks that go along with it?
Yeah. So that's a really good point because this is where businesses tend to get burned. And by no fault of their own, they just simply do not know. So with a lot of the regulations coming out now to stop spam calls, to stop spam text, there have been enforcements going out. So have you can send out an improper message and be fined $500 to $1,500 for that message, and you didn't know. And then managing, opt in and opt out, trying to understand who you're allowed to send messages to and who you're not allowed to send messages to, and when you're allowed to send those messages. We've seen a lot of businesses struggling to understand this and be able to, you know, use the tools that they have appropriately.
Yeah. And you'd mentioned, I think it's the TCPA, which is the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. And these fines, you said 5 to 1,500. That's per message, right?
Yeah, it can get expensive very quickly.
Yeah, yeah, and again, it's confusing, and I know, just from seeing some of our team and some of the changes, these rules and regulations can change. So some of them are a little bit fluid. So we are a team that tries to make it a little bit easier for you. But tying the apps for all and the compliance issues together, you're dealing with things that might be unreliable or unsustainable, right? Keeping things aligned, keeping things working, making sure that they're compliant, making sure that they're configured correctly. With our solution, we try to make that a little bit easier. But what types of unreliability are end users or businesses experiencing when they're trying to utilize notifications?
Yeah. So this is a big problem all around. So I mentioned before, if you're relying on an app for specific notifications, well, what if a person uninstalls the app, forgets to log into the app, gets a new phone? They're just not going to get that message, and that could be devastating. There could be a real issue that they need to address. You've also got situations where if you're not following these guidelines, your message just might not be delivered. When it gets to T-Mobile, when it gets to Verizon, they get to decide whether or not your message goes through. And if you're not registered with them, then they will block that message. And so the user would just never get it or block that phone call. And that, again, very big issue if you're relying on this to let people know what's going on.
Yeah, and yeah, 100%. And then I'll talk to this one lastly. You've got cost and price, but I did put this at the end for a reason. So I grew up in a family of first responders, and when it comes to things like emergencies, seconds matter, right? So that's why for me, I think that having one tool that can do all of those in one place. We're talking employee notifications, emergency alerts, or even customer communication makes it a lot simpler. Having more emphasis on compliance, making it easier to ensure you remain compliant, and then it's reliable. Those things are core things that I find important, just for the sheer fact of, again, seconds matter, and lives are way more important than cost, I feel, but I think most people should feel. But you do end up with some cost issues if you are using several applications that are separate tools for separate use cases. That can become expensive. Not only do you have to invest the time and energy into managing those apps, making sure that they're up to date, making sure that everybody's installed them, making sure that everybody knows how to log in or how to receive those notifications, but you're paying three different services or four different services or even more to send out these notification alerts or just standard communication with your customer base. So there's a lot of cost, or operational expenditures that are involved in that. So, um, you know, uh, without, too much further into that one, we know that we've got some problems out there and some challenges. These are some of the things that I think were the core focus of the engineering team over the past couple of months as they've built out AlertBlast. Now, we've had AlertBlast V2 in place for a couple of years. There's been some really cool tools and further advancements there, but things like the registration, 10DLC, compliancy, tracking of information, or even what I think is really cool, like Active Directory sync. Talk about making an IT guy's job or IT woman's job a little bit easier. These were some big focuses for your team. So, real quick, can you talk about some of the changes that have come with V3, and then we'll see a little bit more about what AlertBlast really is.
Yeah. So you alluded to it perfectly. One of the big motivators for Alert Blast is reducing the complication for our customers. So this V3, us the engineering team, we really focused on the user experience, how are you going to use this and how can we make your life easier? So we talked a little bit about problems, and I want to talk a little bit about the solutions now. So the TCR compliance, it's really complicated. We saw, and it's ever evolving. So we've seen businesses who go through the registration process. They get their little notification on how much usage they have, how fast they can spend or send to certain carriers, and then they don't do anything additional with that information. Those regulations change over time, and while they may get notified of that change, they're not actively considering that change. And it just kind of sits in the back. So we wanted to make all of this more visible, show users exactly what they're doing, what they have available to them in that moment, not just when they registered.
Yeah,
Um,
and then just to kind of to interrupt you real quick on that,
yeah,
the TCR registration, the campaign registration, just to kind of clear it up a little bit further too, is that depending on the type of messages that you're sending into a carrier network. Let's say a carrier network, especially on the mobile side, we're sending text messages to Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, things like that. When you register a campaign is how you intend to utilize messaging on another carrier's network. So are you doing customer service follow-ups, employee notifications, or are you sending emergency notifications? Based on that campaign is going to determine, as you mentioned, how many different messages can be sent into a network at any one time. If you're just doing basic employee follow-up, then maybe you're going to be able to send 500 messages per hour, up to a certain amount before that network says, hey, this is a little bit irregular behavior. It doesn't align with your campaign. Or if you're sending emergency notifications, that's going to give you a greater throughput. TCR, the campaign registry, is there to vet your campaign or what your use case is. If you are vetted and proven that this is an emergency use case, now you may have the ability to transfer or send 10,000 messages onto carrier networks within 15 seconds, right? So that understanding your campaign, what that campaign's for, and the amount of messages that you can send out at once is greatly important. But those networks will throttle you and you know will stop you from doing things that are outside of that campaign. So that visibility is huge. So anyways, I'll let you carry on, Sumner. I didn't mean to interrupt
no,
too much
no,
on
I
that.
think that's perfect because you just explained a lot of the issue. It's complicated.
Yeah.
And so, we wanted to make that super simple for users to understand. They don't need to understand all the nuances of campaigns. They just need to understand, what they're allowed to send and how often.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing that we really wanted to focus on is ease of maintenance. So we introduced Active Directory sync. So as you're, adding people and subtracting people from your organization, someone was having to go update groups somewhere in some notification system. So we introduced Active Directory sync. So you just assign a group within your Microsoft environment, and that group is synced to AlertBlast. So you always know that you're sending to the right people at the right time. Improved tracking is super important. Not just knowing that you sent the message, but knowing if they received the message. If you got their voicemail on a phone call, or the message wasn't delivered by the carrier because the phone's turned off. Knowing things like that is very important when you're talking about notifications.
Hmm.
And then a really cool feature that we brought into V3 is Wellness Check. Wellness Check is really great for municipalities or anyone who needs to regularly check in on a user. And what it does is it calls them and asks them to press a digit. When they press the digit, they are either indicating that they are okay or not okay. And if they're not okay, it sends an alert out to whoever you want via any medium that you want: email, SMS, voice call. And it can send their information so that that person can be checked in on. It
Hmm.
was it was a request from one of our customers, and I really appreciate this feature being at the forefront of this product.
Yeah, and it was cool for that particular municipality to want something like that because it is versatile. I think you'd mentioned, like, not just a municipality or a town that can check on elderly people, or people maybe they have special needs, or maybe they just need a check in. They've got some
Yeah.
certain type of health issues. But assisted living communities, those places can be complex. Um, there's so many different things that can tie into that. So. Um, I wanted to talk about Alert Blast itself, right? So we did a lot of cool updates. We know there's some problems out there. We did some updates to make things easier. 10DLC, TCR, that's been around for a while. But Alert Blast itself is a multi-channel communication platform, right? So what it does really, really well is it can send out text messages, voice alerts, and emails concurrently, all at the same time, right? Which is big, but it also is very API friendly. And API friendly means that it can tie into things like wallboards, IP phones, overhead paging, strobe lights. I'll talk about that in the use case. It can do so many different things. The interface is fairly simple to use, right? It doesn't take rocket science for anybody to understand how to send out a broadcast. That'll be a big change for most people to know. The way we used to send messages, we called them blasts. Now we're going to call them broadcasts. But there's some enhanced features that are baked in. Things like two-way messaging, dedicated telephone numbers per campaign. So again, you're tying in three particular campaigns into Alert Blast, where maybe one, again, is employee notifications, one is emergencies, and one is for customer communications. The delivery reports, improving that TCR analytics, and I think a little bit of AI is now baked into it, which is pretty cool. I'll let you show that. And lastly is things like customization and integration. We are a software development company, and as Sumner mentioned, we had a customer who came to us with a problem. We were able to work with them and develop a solution in-house that met their needs. Again, that's one of the core values of what makes OneCloud. OneCloud, we want to be able to be flexible, and we want to create custom solutions for our customers. So Alert Blast is a really, really awesome tool. Everything from, even a tornado alert, right? So we had some weather come through, and our own organization embraces this, and we got some alerts. I think was it yesterday, Sumner?
Uh, Monday.
Was it Monday?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
the funny part is, we got the alerts all of our on our cell phone. So not only we got the city or government alerts, but we got the alerts from the organization. And it's funny, we're talking through this webinar, and we're looking out the window, and everybody else is outside looking, staring outside. Um, We didn't think anything of it, and then we just hop back in and go through practice and a few more things. And then later on, I get a message from my wife, and she's like, "Yeah, you guys had a EF0 tornado touchdown, like what was it, 2 miles from our office?"
Yep.
Which was business as usual.
But the
Let's go
alerts
about it.
all worked. We were
Very
all
much so.
aware.
Yes, 100%. Um, I do want to touch base on a quick use case, and then I'll hand it over to Sumner to go through the platform itself. But we dealt with a large manufacturing facility, and this manufacturing facility itself had run into an issue where they needed to essentially evacuate their building. Now it's 2026, so we have people all over the place in a company. On the manufacturing floor, on the floor itself, people didn't have cell phones. Weren't allowed to have cell phones. They weren't in front of computers. They weren't, walking around with a tablet or anything. It's a production floor. And on that floor, they're doing things like wearing hard hats, safety glasses, and in ear protection. The rest of the facility, you've got your admin staff who are in offices. It's more of a normal office environment with desk phones and PCs and things like that. You've got remote employees, and then you have folks who are out to lunch. When they had to evacuate the facility, they had a hard time aligning all of those individuals at once, making sure that everybody was on the same page that, hey, we've got something going on here. Please don't return to the facility. If you're on facility, go to safety checkpoint A or whatever your scheduled checkpoint was. So we did a couple of different things. One was using those fancy API integrations. Essentially, they were able to utilize strobe lights, overhead paging, and on their production floor, they did have wall boards, which were just TVs that had things like safety announcements and stuff on them. In case of an emergency, if a broadcast is sent out, what it would do is trigger the strobe lights, overhead paging, as well as the TV monitors would put a message across them. Everybody would get a text message, didn't matter who it was, but the office staff was getting that email, a voice call to their desk phone, and a text message, as well as the remote employees and the individuals who were off-site. So now, regardless of what environment or where you're located geographically, within 15 seconds, everybody was notified. Everybody was on the same page with one form of communication or another. Now, there was some cost tied into this. So, depending on some of the tools that they were using, they were paying annually about $6,300 to maintain both emergency alert, employee notifications, and they did some minimal customer communications as well. But I mean, 6,300 is a chunk of change just for notifications. We were able to cut their spend or their operationals OpEx by 49%, bringing them down to about $3,200 annually. But on top of that, we were able to consolidate everything into one tool. They were, again, no longer utilizing multiple different applications. Their IT team didn't need to manage or mitigate that. The accountant had one less thing they had to audit and sign, and it was easier overall. And, Sumner had brought that point up before, too, that you don't need an app on your phone for that notification. Not having that app is crucial, because if you do get a new phone or something changes, you don't have to log back in. Nothing's timed out. It's going to work on whatever media, standard email, SMS, or even a phone call directly to that cell phone. So it's pretty cool. But anyways, I digress on that. We're running tight on time. Sumner, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you if you want to run through.
Yeah.
Give us an idea or give us a quick peek of what we've done.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a live demo because everyone loves live demos.
Nothing could ever go wrong.
Nothing can ever go wrong. All right. So this is the new AlertBlast V3 interface. You'll notice that it looks a bit different than V2 if you're familiar with V2. And if you're not familiar with V2, welcome to AlertBlast. I hope you love it. The first feature that I'm going to show you is the most important feature to all of the IT professionals out there, and that is that we do now support dark mode.
Woohoo.
Right? So I know, like Ben loves it.
Yep.
It's not for everyone, but it is my favorite feature.
The IT guys or gals absolutely love it, no question.
Yeah, I got to protect those eyes.
Yes.
So The next thing that I'm going to cover is we really talked about that visibility and knowing what's going on. So you can see you have information at the top always available. This is your credits, what you've used, and then you have your TCR information, that campaign registry. And if you click on it, you get really good information about your campaign, and these numbers are accurate to you in that moment. So you can see like what your use case is, what you're allowed to do, and your messaging rates, as well as your status within each carrier. All right. So that's really helpful to know, how many messages can I send a day? If I've got 1,000 employees and I'm planning for a disaster recovery scenario, I may need to send more than one message out. So I'm going to need more than 2,000 a day. And this is live information. The carriers have changed this number over time. So it will always be accurate to your campaign. So I'm not going to do a full demo of everything that AlertBlast can do because we don't have hours of time, but I do want to show you how simple it is to send a blast or a broadcast. So new broadcast, click the button, we give it a title. We're going to call it Webinar Live. All right, we're going to do a new message. All right, so from a new message, we'll just create a message. I've got one here all prepared. All right, and then we're going to click this little button here to get some information from our AI. So this is going to give you some different suggestions for your message, as well as check it against your campaign. So if you're sending a message that works well with your campaign. So you're not sending an emergency notification on a marketing campaign. You're not sending a marketing campaign on an emergency message campaign. Just another check. And you'll notice like I had some grammar issues in this. So we'll switch over to the alternate one and go ahead and send it. Actually, before we do that, I'm gonna try and personalize this a little bit. So I'm gonna put their first name and last name from the contact information in. All right, next. All right, so next we've got our groups on the right-hand side and our media types that we're going to send on the left-hand side. So we can simply drag and drop the group from one to another. You can see I want to send SMS. I might want to send voice to this group. And I'm just going to grab a random contact and I'm going to send them an email. All right. From here, I click send now. And here we get a summarization of what we're about to send. All right. We can see how many messages we're going to end up sending out and acknowledge and click OK. Once we click OK, you're going to start to get a live view of what is sent. So you saw how
Yeah, that's pretty
quickly
cool.
that was sent. You got the 2 SMSs sent and the email message. And down below, we can see the specific information on those. So it's that quick to send a broadcast out. One of the really cool things that we've done too is unified the messaging into your conversation. So now you not only see, the messages that you were texting back and forth, but you also see all of your broadcasts that you sent and where they were from in line with your regular conversations.
Yeah, that's huge enhancements from what we had before. Before, what we had was great, but as we've kind of alluded to here, compliance has gotten more and more challenging. Navigating that compliance is a challenge, and having a tool like, as I mentioned, we're putting 3 different types of alert systems or capabilities into one tool. Sometimes that allows, sometimes we have to add added features. So all of that information that you see, what is your throughput? What is the campaign that you have? we have a drop down that allows you to select a telephone number, and that telephone number is registered to a campaign. You're able to see information about said campaign, what it is you're sending out. The AI capabilities also of just scanning your message to make sure that you're staying compliant is really massive. So there's as Sumner mentioned, there's a lot more to this that we can dig into. Love to give a demo if anybody would be interested in getting further. We've got a lot of internal folks on here as well. We plan on getting this deeper as well with everybody who wants to dig in and learn it and see it and be part of it. But if there's any questions, I definitely want to go ahead and open up for questions now. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, everybody is muted. If you would like to ask a question or have questions, we encourage that. There's a little hand down at the bottom of the screen. Click that little hand, and one of our moderators will unmute you. Just make sure that your microphone doesn't have a little line through it. So with that said, Sumner, you rock, man. Appreciate your time, and I'll go ahead and open this up for some questions.
Thank you, Ben.
Anybody? Mr. Connor, everything good? Any questions there?
No, sir. I'm excited to see it fully produced and see the future of AlertBlast. I mean, this is a huge improvement, and I think long time coming. And I'm just excited to see it fully within the fan base and the customer space.
Yeah. I think Eunice, did you raise your hand or have something you want to say?
No, that was an accident.
No worries. All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining us today. If you did join us and you might want to share this with somebody else, we will be doing a follow-up with a recording, so we'll send you a follow-up message. You've got all of my contact information. If you come across anything that you want to know or somebody who wants to know more, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'll hop in and engage and help out whosoever they want. But with that said, thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. And Sumner, thank you for your time. And we hope you have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.